Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how to make your own version of this pendant here, as well as the one that I'm wearing. So let's go ahead and get started. To make this style of project, we're going to start off with assembling our tools and materials. Optional are a hammer and a steel block, but pretty essential are wire snips, round nose pliers, some pliers to open or close jump rings. Here I have some stepped flat nose pliers from Rio Grande and my bent nose pliers with the thermoplastic modification for the handle the way that I like. And I also always recommend, if you can, spring it in your budget for some nylon jaw pliers because these bad boys are totally worth it. Also, here I'm using, and you can vary the gauge that you're using to suit what you have in stock, as well as like exploring just different, stylistic preferences. But I have 10 inches of 16 gauge, and this is American wire gauge, the AWG 16 gauge from Pear Wire in their silver plated silver tone, and then 18 gauge in their silver plated titanium tone, which is just a very slightly bit darker. I like it though. As well as an assortment of different gears. Some of these I got in like the scrapbooking section of Hobby Lobby. Some of them I got, from supply resellers on like Etsy, just, searching 25 millimeter gears. That's the size of the largest one. But the main thing that I want to look out for is that the center is about 3 millimeters. Now, if you have a smaller hole in the center of your gear, this also comes from the scrapbooking section in Hobby Lobby. It's like a little brad that looks like it has a little screw head. And these are a little, I'm not gonna lie, they're a little flimsy for how I like to make like super durable jewelry if I can swing it, but these will work. But I prefer to use, and the reason I need the slightly larger hole is from Tandy Leather. I use their mini double cap rivets. Now these are nickel plated, so I go through and I just add a spot of like UV resin or Mod Podge over the back for folks with metal sensitivities. But I also like to use, I just spray this on there, rub it around my finger a bit on the backs of all of my pieces, because while the Parawire is enameled and holds up wonderfully, sometimes the enameling on these zinc components doesn't hold up over, after about 5 or 6 years, it's completely worn off. So I just put a bit of Mod Podge on there. So with these little cap rivets, you can see there's the stem end and the cap end. And I keep them in separate containers just to keep things simple. And I do use a rivet setter, also available from Tandy Leather. There's links to the tools and materials that I'm using down in the video description below, and those are affiliate links. So anything that you purchase through there greatly benefits our company, so I always appreciate that. But you can just use a hammer to set the rivet, and it will make it flat on both sides. But I like that nice like little bit of doming, if I can help it. So the way that we're going to do that is just mix and match until you find a pairing that you like of your gears. Now this one, the tooth on it, oh, there's a bug on me. The tooth on it is going to make it a little bit complicated. We'll address that later. Actually, you can see it's pretty simple just doing it with the rounded one. I think we'll actually wrap this toothed gear today in the tutorial. That way, if yours is like that and it gets complicated, we'll already know how to address it. So we're going to take the stem and bring that up through from behind, just like that. Let's get some stuff. It's also going to be, I apologize if you're wearing earbuds. I'm going to try to remember, future Vaughn, if you're editing this, please remember to quiet the hammering down a little bit. But we're just going to feed that stem through, set it on our steel block, and then bring the cap down. And you can see, oops, well, it just fell right out, didn't it? I wanted to bring this in a little bit closer so I could show you guys. There's that little bit of space And that's necessary because whenever we bring the cap down, like you don't want your gear sitting completely flush up against the rivet because you need space to be able to fit that cap in. So just something to keep in mind. So we'll zoom in just a little bit. And I'm coming on our rivet setter, there's a flat end that we hit and then a domed end that we'll put over our rivet, just like this. I'm going to try to not hit the camera, and I just like to use the nylon side and just, okay, loud. As easy as that, it's nice and set. Now, if I had done it just a little bit more lightly, we'd have a little bit more of an easier spin, but the more you fiddle with this, the more easily it will turn. But what's happened is this little stem part here has mushroomed out inside the rivet cap. So that's how you do that. And I like to do that just for, like, you could just do that and make like some earrings and stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy wire wrapping. Like, you could do little sections like this and then piece them together with jump rings and just make a cool bracelet. It has a little bit more depth and interest than if you're just layering bare single gears next to each other. Okay, scooch that back off over to the side. So now, something to keep in mind too is the whatever color you pick for your 16 gauge wire, if you're following along with me, is going to be completely covered with whatever color you decide to do your weaving in. So I often, because they're a little bit more affordable, will use one of the like copper or antique copper or vintage bronze for the center on that one, and that way it can really like show off the silver wire without being a little bit more expensive. So I've pulled off an arm span and a bit, so about 6 feet of 28 gauge vintage bronze parawire. And I get it in the bulk spools from them, which are really affordable and very easy to store. And I've found the center of it, of our length of wire, and I'm going to come through now to the center of our 16 gauge and just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rotations. I recommend at least 3, but you can mix this up so much. I just wanted to communicate the core concept to you guys, and then you can do whatever you want with it. And so if this were a flat edged gear, it's as simple as just kind of butting it up against the wire and then sewing this wire through and kind of going that way. But since we have the teeth to worry about, it gets a little bit trickier. Same concept, just a little trickier. So I'm finding the end of our wire, and I'm just going to follow the direction how this is exiting on the back. So I want to come up from the back on here, pulling through, making sure that we don't get any kinks. And I just want to make sure that the gear sits butted up properly against our wire. And then I'm going to wrap once, and then feeding up and through, making sure we don't get any kinks in it. Which is getting a little messy. Sorry, I'm watching what I'm doing through the camera, trying to make sure that I stay in frame. But it makes it, my depth perception is just a little bit off. So please pardon me while I flail about and try to pretend like I'm a professional. Okay, and there's 2. And now we're going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 around our 16 gauge again. Give it a smush. So if I can, I try to put the spoke kind of behind the wires that we just used to attach the gear, just because I find that for me that makes the spacing sit a little bit more comfortably. And so now I'm going to add in our 18 gauge, take a little bit of the curve out of that, and now I'm going to wrap once and twice. Yeah, that went much easier. And now giving it just a little bit of a split because it makes it easier for me to weave around. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you've followed along with my steampunk bracelet and steampunk earring designs, this is going to be much easier for you because we've kind of done this already. But as we go, I'm going to just kind of bend very slightly, bend both wires around to fit the curve of our gear, bypassing the little spoke, or the big spoke, I guess I should say. And coming through, and just pulling that wire around. For those of y'all who are pretty experienced wire wrappers and you already get the gist of it, feel free to skip ahead or put it into like fast forward. YouTube has a really great feature where you can make it go just like 2 times speed. I don't get offended at all, but I always try to teach presuming that you've never touched pliers or wire before. So I'm going to go nice and slow for all of us. And there's no telling what happens during a tutorial, so how many did I just do? 1, 2, yeah, that was 2. 3, 4, 5, smoosh, there we are. I want to try to keep that just nice and tight the whole way. And now 1 and 2 around both, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so you can kind of get the idea then that we're just going to be repeating this all the way around. I like to do my repetitions, give it a little bit of a bend. I want to keep that bend as nice and smooth. Traffic noises. And then just pulling that through, again, trying to make sure that we don't get any little kinks there. Opening that up just a bit. It's more important to me that everything that I'm weaving is nice and even as opposed to it being super duper tight, because we can tighten things down later with like hammering and the nylon jaw and stuff, but if it's inconsistently tight, then that's gonna kind of show. So there was our 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to continue. This is going to be our middle point. So I want to establish a line of center because I'm making a pendant. I want it all nice and centered. But you could just as easily, instead of attaching a bail to this side, focus on symmetry and bring these sides up a little bit more. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to scooch that around. And then you could have it like that, or with like a little dangle hanging down, and attach some chain or chainmail or more beadwork to either side and make this a necklace instead of a hangy downy focal point pendant. Very technical terminology. So I try to not do too much bending and straightening though, because that can kind of warp what we've got going on with our nice smooth organic looking curves. So keep in mind whenever you're making this, if you want a straight line, or if you want it offset a little bit, or if you just want it hugging just this little bit of the side, and then a little bit of planning can go a long way. I know that for those of y'all who've been following along my tutorials for a while now, you'll know that I'm not exactly I don't typically plan a whole lot, but there is value to it for sure. 4 and 5. So I'm going to go step by step with you guys as we bring this around to the center point, and then I'm just going to repeat it on the other side. So that way this isn't like a 10-hour long tutorial. Now you can see here the little spoke, and this won't happen if you're using a smooth dead gear, but the little spoke has gotten in there and separated our wire. Ooh, I hate that. Let's see if we can't loosen this up just a little bit, just enough to get that wire in there. Boop. keep that spacing. Yeah, there we go. That's better. And now we've also run into, we might not have enough space right here to be able to fit, but I just scooched that spokes over, so it should be fine. I found that keeping my finger there, once you start really getting into the rhythm and pattern of weaving, can keep your wire from kinking up on you. Because if I don't put my finger there and I pull through, well, it works fine anyways. But sometimes it doesn't, I promise. And it's usually whenever I'm not paying attention, and then bam, I've got like a big gnarly kink in my wire. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, where goes the doggy dog? And then 1, 2 around both. And then it's so hard being a dog. 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe he's counting along with us, who knows. And so that was enough to bypass that large spoke. Excellent. That just worked out just about as perfect as I could have hoped for. Now doing another, there's 1. And whoop. Now here, I was getting into a bit of a hurry and hooked around my whole piece. It's okay. Those things happen. So there's 1, 2, 3. Now I press with my fingernail down to really get each and every stitch where I want it to be before moving on to the next one, and then I lose count. Let me see, maybe I can, I can see better with the camera. No, I can't, my eyes are crossing. 4, yeah, so we'll do one more. I figure if I'm, somebody's ever buying my jewelry and they're looking at it and they're like, you did 4 there instead of 5. I'll be like, good eyes, I guess. Like, laser vision, super duper vision, because I couldn't even see it. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go 1, 2, smoosh. And I think that's going to be my last one. Like, that's going to be where I weave to match to on the other side. So now from here, I'm going to do 8 repetitions of our 2 around both, 5 around one. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, smoosh, 2 around both, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry for the bork and dorks. Hey, what's up, buddy? 1, 2, 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think he just wanted to be involved. 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also right there. I normally, whenever I'm doing a lot of wrapping, I'll wear some tape over that, but I've got like a specific callus that gets sore right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what he was barking at. The cat came in through the upstairs window. Hey, Callie. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'd think I'd be able to keep track of all these numbers, but I cannot. So there's our 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And there's our 8th. Okay, I've found that for the length that I cut my wire at, if I do more than 8, then I start to run into the problem that it drags this, like this spiral. I did 10 repetitions, and it makes my end spiral start too far off to one side. Whereas if I take two of those off, it lets it sit a little bit more comfortably centered for what I'd like. So by all means, experiment, try some stuff, see what you like. I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So now I'm gonna branch that off to the side just a little bit. We've done 5. Hopefully I'll remember that. I'm going to use my finger length. I like to snip to replicate what I did over here. I snipped the length of my fingertip to like a little past it. So like a little past where my fingernail ends. Snip. And I save this because that's a perfect length for making like a wrapped link or a clasp or, you know, who knows what. Hashtag hoarding. And now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers. Grip as close to the tip of the pliers and as close to the tip of the wire as I can without it sliding off like that. Whoa, come on, hands. There we go. And just spiraling around. Which, that's another thing. Using scrap wire and stuff, perfect for practicing spirals on. Okay, so we've done a little bit of a spiral here. I'm going to smoosh it to keep everything on the same plane. And now, this is completely optional, by the way, but I really love the way hammered jewelry looks, like hammered wire. I've been following what's her name? ZD Artisan Jewelry on Instagram, and she incorporates such beautiful like hammered wire into her stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna start doing that. So shout out to ZD and everybody go follow them because their work is amazing. But nice smooth hammerhead, lining it up so that I don't bash any of my weaving. Loud, sorry. And so that gives us just a little bit of fun like spread. It's a little bit more dynamic, and it also catches the light so nice whenever it's flat like that. And you can do that with like if you have just a regular household hammer and like a floor, maybe, I don't know. There are ways of going about this if you don't have the same tools that I use. But so now that we've hammered that, I'm going to come in and I'm gripping and just rotating this around to hug the outer shape of our spiral. So there we go. So we did our 5 rotations, and now I'm going to go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Normally I wouldn't be counting, but I want to keep y'all, like, if you want to do it, like, exactly. I know that if I didn't count, somebody would ask, how many rotations is that? So it's just easier for me to count, except for that I lost track just now. Oh, crap. Well, I tried, you guys. I guess I could, I don't know, count. Honestly, that looks like about 20. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. Yeah. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 60. Okay, and we're starting to run out. So 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. All right. So it's about 65 to 66 rotations. I'm going to smoosh down that end there. Smoosh. Keep that all nice and tight. Excuse me. And so now I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut with my flush cutters at an angle. And snip. Now it's very, very subtle. That's all right. And I'm going to come in and grab again as close to the tip of the wire as I can. But if you grab too close, it starts just kind of pulling off there. That's okay. But I just want to bring this around. And I actually am trying to purposefully pinch and pull that wire around. Was it the other way that I was snipping? Yeah, I did that backwards. Yeah, totally did that backwards. Herp derp. Okay. It's okay, guys. I'm only a professional. That's fine. So I'm going to come in and snip from the other direction. Ow, that pinged off. Yeah, and that gives us like a nice little curve. See how cute that is? Oh, I love that. When I do it right. So, bringing it in. Where'd my, there they are. And now I'm going to use my nylon jaw pliers, because it gives me just a little bit more control, to bring this around. Bring that around. Give it some smushes. Smush, 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 smush. And we can actually come in here on our weaving. And the difference it makes, y'all, to give this a smush is like huge. Nice. But yeah. So there we are. There is 1/2 of our jewelry piece. So we are going to do that same exact thing on the other side, mirroring it as much or as little as we want. Like, you go crazy. This is your piece. You do you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If it holds together, looks the way that you want it to, and isn't uncomfortable to wear, then you did it right. So I'm gonna go ahead. I think I'm actually gonna get some hyperlapse footage of that, and then we'll meet you guys right back here to finish this off. So here I've run into a little bit of a snag, and that is this spoke, no matter how I swing it, is just in the way. And I don't want to do a little thingy like my little 2 wraps offset to one side, so I am just going to skip it like it never happened. 2, 3, 4, and 5, because I want to maintain nice straight, you know, like more clockwork. I want it to look like intricate and even and, you know, stuff, like tidy. So I want to maintain that distance as well. So that was 10, and then 11 and 12 to account for the 2 stitches that we would have normally done. And then I'm going to wrap to around the 2, and then go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then wrap through here. So that was an unanticipated little snag that I thought I'd share my problem solving with you guys on that. Now, that was actually dangerously close to the end of my weaving for going around. So if that had been the case, I probably would have just extended it a little further around from the center line than what I normally would have, and just kind of rolled with it. But like, again, if you're looking quite close, you'd notice that there's a gap there, but I think it would have been a lot more noticeable if my wires had been like weird. So I don't know, experimentation makes life spicy, so we should not be afraid of it. Never mind. I'm just gonna go back into hyperlapse. So we've gotten our 8 repetitions, and I actually think I'm going to make this piece into a necklace as opposed to a pendant that hangs down. And it really helps, I don't know if I just thought this or said this, but it really helps to do these countings on each side, because that really helps the symmetry to come through, I think. So, yeah, as soon as I say that, I don't know. I'll decide what we're going to do with it after I finish off this half. So, we've gotten to this far. Offsetting that just a little bit. I'm going to treat it to be very symmetrical, though, just in case that way I can decide whatever. Give it a snip. Close to the tip of the wire and close to the tip of the pliers. Bringing this around. There we are. And now let's whack it a bunch. Again, keeping my weaving wire out of the way, because hard hammering on these thin wires can actually just slice them sometimes. So it's just such a thin wire. So again, gonna be loud. There we go. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it's 5 plus 15, so that's 20 rotations. Now we're just going to go ahead and start coiling this in, being very careful. Sometimes these wires here that have been woven will want to like buckle instead of sitting flat side by side. And sometimes, like whenever I'm making a wire wrapped bezel for like a cabochon or something, that's perfect. Like that's exactly what I want. Today is not that day. Today I want nice and flat. So using my nylon jaw, yeah, we'll go ahead and just do this as a straight line pendant. Get that stuff smooshed, that weaving, so it all stays all nice and tight. Yeah, I like that. Okay, give it some more smooshes. Smoosh, smoosh. That just flattens and smooths everything out, makes me very happy. Okay, so it's 20. Now instead of weaving like that, we can go so that only got us up to 57. Like I counted every time it was up here. It's like running off a ticker, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, I forget what number I just said. So it's not perfectly symmetrical, but since I'm doing a vertical pendant, I'm not nearly as worried about that. Give that a nice solid smush down. My goal is to always be able to wear my wire wrapping over like a fine knit sweater without it snagging. Okay, so now I'm going to try to remember which side I snip it on. Snip this way. And so that's going to be a nice solid snip. And then getting our round nose pliers. Shaping that actually a little bit. Like by purposefully slipping off the end, it can be a good thing sometimes. Until it's happening so much that you can't get an actual grip. Oh goodness. Okay, so we got a grip. But yeah, see how that, it actually made it kind of sharp. That's okay though. Now we come in here and bring it around until we get about that far. And I'm coming in with our nylon jaw just to grab and gently smush around. Make sure everything's nice in a center line together. It's a little offset. Let's see if I can't do anything about that. Yeah, see how it's like curve, just, I don't know. There we go. I like that. I like the addition of the hammering, gives it some nice, catches the light sometimes. And so now what we would do from here is we get to decide what's going to be the top and what's going to be the bottom. I kind of like this side as the bottom better. So what we would do for the top is you could just do like how we did here and use a couple of jump rings to attach a pre-made bail. You could make a wire bail. I'll show you real quick how I like to do that. I actually like to take my flathead pliers that have actually been ground down to a pretty fine flatness, and that way I can take it and bend and have just that little bit of space there in the wire. And then I like to use this inside part of my box joint hinge on my round nose pliers. I don't know why, but it's like perfect for gripping and smushing the little bits like that to get them to really to sit like properly side by side. You could use your round nose or a mandrel or something. I'm particularly fond of these pliers right here, and I'm just going to hook this around. Now I am using a 16 gauge wire, and that makes me feel okay about not having that like soldered or wire wrapped or anything like that. And so now I'm going to give this about a finger width from right here to there. I'm going to snip. And now I'm going to come in. And again, we can use to get them to be the same size, because I like using these stepped pliers because I can grip here and both of the loops that I make are going to be the same size. Whereas if I use my round nose pliers, one would be smaller than the other because of its tapered manner. So I'm just going to grip both of them, bring that around, and I've come to the realization that I gave myself way too much wire. So let's go in and snip some excess, grip, and oops, well I missed one. There's that. Grip and just bring it around. So that's a nice little bail. Or we could use a jump ring and attach like a pre-made bead or something if we wanted to string it up on a necklace. I think that would have been really pretty. But I also really like this bail that we just made. So I'm going to get in here and I'm actually going to open up both of these rings. Well, both of these loops that we had made. And then I'm going to hook through like that. And then I'm going to close them. And you can smush them next to each other, make them be real good friends and stuff. Now I do like to come in with either a fingernail or just something and throw it on the ground and just get a little bit of division going between. I just like that little bit of space there. I don't know why. I just like it. And it's my jewelry, so I get to do what I want. It's like, I'm a grown-up, darn it, I get to do whatever I want with the stuff that I make. Though it's not quite sitting as smoothly as I would have liked, so I'm actually going to get in here and open that up just a little bit more. And now I'm very pleased with that. That makes me happy. Okay. There we are. We have a little steampunky wire-wrapped pendant. So, very cool. Or Jamungo earrings. It's up to you. Though if I were doing them as earrings, I'd mirror them. Just saying. Hey y'all, thanks so much for joining me for this tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. Be sure to check out all the links in the video description for where you can buy the same tools and materials as what I'm using. Follow links to my Etsy store for kits and different things. At the time of recording this, I don't have a kit put together for this project, but if you have like the gears and stuff, you can get like the mystery crates and have like the same wires and stuff, so it's pretty fun. But there's all sorts of stuff too for sale up on our Etsy also, so that's, I don't know, I have fun with it. So if you do enjoy my work and would like to support what we do beyond liking, sharing, subscribing, following along, doing the things, making the crafts, feel free to join us in our Craft Along Club over on Patreon, as well as on Discord. Links for that will be down in the video description as well. It's a great way to be able to, interact and participate in different crafty things outside of just here on YouTube. But yeah, I think that's it. So until next time, y'all, happy crafting. Bye! In this video, I'm going to show y'all how to make this pendant, if the camera will focus. Go focus, camera. No, it's not going to focus. Let's get started.